Actually, I didn't know about this movement till Mr. Dadlani came to my office. He was our neighbor, and he came asking whether I could make arrangement for Swamiji's stay in Jakarta. So I immediately told him, okay. At that time, there were not many hotels, so I offered to give our own building. We started to make preparation. We moved to another house and gave the whole building to Swamiji, Jayas Jina Trading. So this was our house, actually. We had a shop down, office, and we were living upstairs on the second and third floor. And Swamiji's room was my room, my bedroom. So I was very happy that he could stay in my bedroom and bless it.
This is at the VIP part of the airport in Jakarta. So we have this special area booked for a greeting of Srila Prabhupada. And there are representatives of the Hindu Indian community and the Hindu Bali, means the Balinese Hindu community, but living in Jakarta. They call themselves Hindu Bali. So you have a selection of representatives greeting Srila Prabhupada and presenting talks. The Vyasa-san, we got a frame welded together which could be unbolted, and when it comes apart, you can stack it on top of a car or a vehicle. So this Vyasa-san appears here and also at Thakurdas Watwani's house and at the National Administration Building lecture, because we were disassembling it and moving it everywhere.
When I was in the high school, this was about a year before Srila Prabhupada came to Jakarta. The devotees came to the school auditorium and they did a massive kirtan, whereby I was impressed and more curious to find out about them, because it was the first time I was seeing Americans doing something like Hindu kirtan. And although I already had some little background about my own religion from my parents, but this was something different. And after they did kirtan, I tried to find out where they were staying, who they were. In fact, I found out that they were staying not far away from the school where I was going. It was Gandhi School, and I went to visit them. And ever since, I always attended their morning kirtans plus the lectures. And I even went in the evening time. We had a small children's club that they started, and I was chosen as the president. So our activities were like make dramas from the Krishna book. I was asked to be vegetarian. I was not vegetarian. So Amoghadass said, you cannot help us in cooking until and unless you yourself become vegetarian. I asked them how long. I mean, it would take me to become vegetarian first and then help you. So he said, at least a month. You have to prove to us that you will have no tea, no coffee, no onions, no meat eating. And I actually started doing that, and soon after that I started chanting.
I remember I brought my car and drove him in my car. And that car I kept with me for a long, long time. I didn't want to sell till it really broke down. So I thought since he had sat in the car, so I didn't want to sell it. But finally, the car was getting old and giving a lot of trouble. I had to sell it away.
That made my mother very, very angry, because she was seeing that I was becoming more and more Krishna conscious. And she was finding it difficult to cook separately for me. So she even tried to make it hard for me, like you have to eat what I prepare or not at all. So when I was really hungry, I had to go in the kitchen and cook myself. After I did that, my mother, I guess, felt pity about it, and she started cooking actually for me. After a while, only Amoghadass stayed, and it was then that he saw perhaps this is what he said, that I see some sincerity in you and you want to see Srila Prabhupada. And I said, I do, but it sounds so impossible. Can we ask Srila Prabhupada to come here all the way, And then he said, Yes, why not? Because Srila Prabhupada always makes trips around the world, and soon he might come to Malaysia and he will go to Australia, and looking at the position of Indonesia, it's somewhere in between, and we could ask him to stop by for a few days. So I said, how would I do that? And he said, well, just write sincerely to him. I will help you out and I will send it to him. Srila Prabhupada always answers all the letters that come to him. I actually made a letter, but it was modified by Amogadas on how to put the words like, please accept my humble obeisances in the beginning. I did not know anything about that. And soon after that, the letter was sent. In hardly, I think, 10 days to 15 days, I got a reply from Srila Prabhupada. It was a full page that he wrote. It was a very long letter, like, my blessings are for you, and if you have sincerely invited me, if Krishna decides, I could stop by for a few days. He did ask in his letter about how many devotees are there. Do you chant regularly? Do you have programs regularly? What are your activities? He did ask about. I hope you're keeping well. And I would like to come and preach to the people there. He did not stress so much on the Indians, but at that time there were more Indian devotees than the local ones.
So this is at the house of Thakurdas Watwani. He had some pictures of Krishna posters that he bought from us in the hallway. And in this room where all the assembly is sitting, there's these big, huge paintings, one of Sai Baba, maybe Shiva, but none of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada gave the lecture in Hindi, and the questions and answers session, one man got up who was from Arya Samaj, and Arya Samaj are very atheistic. They deny the Bhagavad Gita, they deny so many things, that Krishna has a form, that God has a form. So this man actually argued with Prabhupada, kept arguing, and then Prabhupada, he called him something. And I remember the whole audience was shocked, but we couldn't really understand because we're in Hindi. As we know, devotees don't tolerate people who blaspheme Krishna in that way. After the meeting, they wanted to invite Prabhupada into the next room to eat. I said to Srila Prabhupada, they'd like you to come into the next room for some prasadam, and Prabhupada said, we can go now? And I said, oh yes, Srila Prabhupada, we could go now, but actually they'd like you to go into the next room and have some prasadam. And he said, we can go now? So I knew he wanted to go, so I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, we can go. So we went out to the car and left. And they got very upset. But then the other thing is, which is seen in other times of history, that the disciple can take some blame instead of someone blaming the guru. So everyone blamed me for escorting Prabhupada out of the situation there and said it was all my fault. Prabhupada didn't leave, but I misdirected or misorganized. So in that way, I guess it's good, because they, instead of criticizing a pure devotee, they just criticized myself.
This is my sister and me. We were at the exhibition for the book sale. My mother changed a lot after seeing Srila Prabhupada. In fact, she told me that when she had a personal conversation with Srila Prabhupada, she had requested within her heart from Krishna to show whether this Swamiji who is sitting in front of me is actually a true Swami and an honest man. And she saw some light coming from Srila Prabhupada's eyes, some glitter, where she was very, very satisfied. And she told me about this incident after coming out from the conversation with Srila Prabhupada. In fact, after that, I also joined the conversation with her and with Srila Prabhupada. And it was a very, very personal conversation where he had sat back comfortably and discussed about the old India times, and they were exchanging their own experiences. When seeing that, in fact, I was like looking at a sister and a brother talking to each other. And he told me about how during his young days he used to see his parents cook rice in the hot sand. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, it's impossible to cook rice in hot sand without fire. And he had laughed and he said, yes, what do you know, because you're born in the modern age. Why don't you believe me, he said. And I had to laugh, and I said, of course, Srila Prabhupada, if you say so and if you've seen it, then it must be true. Then suddenly he asked us, so are there papadums here? What food do you eat? And we told him, both of us, that we cook Indian food. We get all kinds of vegetables here. It's almost like India, my mother told him. And he asked about papadums again. And then I said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, we get giant papadums. And he began to converse in Hindi with my mother. And he said, is she saying the truth? There are giant papadums? What do you mean by giant papadums? And then my mother told him they're double the size of Indian papadums. And then he said, who makes them? And I had to explain to him, Srila Prabhupada, we have cooks. In most of the Indian homes, we have local cooks whom we train up. Oh, so you train the cooks and they sell back to you the papadums? And I had to laugh at that, and I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, because when they stop working and they get a little older, then they go back to their villages and start some business, and they end up making papadums. So they learn from you and they sell it back to you, he said. I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. So we had taken Srila Prabhupada some of the papadums and given it to him. The other stories that he was discussing with my mom was how the Pakistanis, even Muslim, used to stay as neighbors with the Hindus in peace. He said we were staying even with one wall between us, and my mother had mentioned that there were windows even in the walls that we could exchange sometimes food and other things that we cooked. There was a lot of conversation between them in Hindi, but he had also at that time told my mother, so you should read my books. And my mother told him, I don't read and write, I'm illiterate. And he said, but you can speak Hindi and you can speak Indonesian, so you should learn English. And my mother told him, I'm too old. He said, it's never too old to learn. And she said to him, but Srila Prabhupada, I have read Mahabharata and Ramayana all my life. And he said, they are very different from my books. And it's very important that you understand what you read, because there are so many translations and they are very, very misleading. She had Ramayana and Mahabharata in Sindhi language. In fact, she used to get up very early in the morning, and even since childhood I used to hear her recite those books. So I guess that was the effect on me that I came to know about Krishna Consciousness. It was like every morning we used to hear her read those books. This is the gathering at the Lembaga Administrasi Negara. It's an auditorium beside the President's Palace in Jakarta. This is his first day lecture. Kirtans were held, and a very strong lecture which was in fact recorded. All the lectures were in fact recorded. I had the opportunity of being with Srila Prabhupada every minute from the morning walks that he had around the place that he stayed during the first day. We went around Pasar Baru area, and he had in fact stopped by at one shop that had words written Toko India. Does Toko mean shop? I said yes, and he said, that's Indian person's shop? I said yes, and miraculously at that moment when we looked up, there was an Indian lady folding her hands and paying her obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. It was an odd time for Indians to get up at that time. That day he had seen also a vegetable vendor. We could never pace up with Srila Prabhupada because his walks were very, very brisk and very fast. Despite his age, I was quite surprised, and we were always left behind. So only Amogadas used to walk by his side. So when he saw this vegetable vendor, in fact, he had to wait for me to catch up with him. And then he went ahead and asked, are those corns for sale? And I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. He said, could you bargain with him and buy some for my breakfast today morning? So I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And he said, do you know how to put them on fire with tamarind, salt, and with chili powder? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. Can you prepare them for me today? I said, yes. So I bought some, and we took them back to the place where he was staying. There I had no coal fire, so all I could do was put some salt and chili powder. I had no tamarind, nothing else. I had put a little butter on it, and I had to bake it on a gas stove. When I had prepared one, he was already insisting, "Where is the corn?" Amogadas took it up to him. I had to rush and prepare those corns. I think he had about 3 or 4 that morning. Amogadas was quite surprised because it's very, very seldom that Srila Prabhupada eats corn. I was told later on from some other devotees that he said that's food for animals. The next morning, in fact, we had gone to a very large park, and Srila Prabhupada always took his morning walks very early in the morning, so that park was in fact not opened. We were going to go inside the park to park the car, but the guard would not allow Srila Prabhupada to take his walk in that park. I had gone down to the guard to ask and tell him that this is a priest coming from India, and he usually takes his morning walks, and if he would permit us to just take a morning walk. And the guard totally refused. So all Srila Prabhupada did was open his window, look at the guard, and said, "What has happened?" And the guard, looking at Srila Prabhupada, just was like hypnotized and immediately opened the gate for Srila Prabhupada to go in. It was like a miracle, and we were all surprised.
The upstairs level of Jena trading. And this is where Prabhupada would meet guests or the minister of Hindu and Buddhist religion, the family members.
This is our house. Family gathering, yes, this is our family now. This is my wife. She had just given birth to a boy, a baby. He told us to ask whatever we wanted. I don't remember, but it was quite interesting. We were very impressed. And he blessed all of us. I remember one question he asked me whether I believed in God. I told him, of course I believe in God. But he kept on asking from me, do you believe in God? This is my son.
When Prabhupada arrived, he arrived and stayed in his room, and we were outside, and then we were all kind of resting because it was quite an event for us. And Prabhupada only rested about a half hour after an international flight. And then Prabhupada, we heard him going around the whole room, quite a large room he was in, switching all the lights on and off, testing all the latches, everything, all the switches and different things around the room. It's interesting. The next section shows Srila Prabhupada at the Hindu Bali temple at Rawamangan. And they have a band, I think it was called a gamelan. It's a kind of music that plays percussion and gongs and different instruments. It's quite unusual. It's an undescribable, unique sound that band has. When Srila Prabhupada arrived, they sat down all together and chanted the first line of the Gayatri mantra out loud. And together, that's what they do. They sit and slowly chant the first line of Gayatri mantra. In Srila Prabhupada's talk, he talks about the Gayatri mantra and the meaning of Gayatri. They played their own music to greet Srila Prabhupada, but also when he sang Jai Radha Madhava, which is he would always sing before speaking, he directed them to play along with him as he sang Jai Radha Madhava. But their band plays in very minor keys, and it's quite an amazing sound to hear Prabhupada chanting Jai Radha Madhava and them playing those instruments at the same time. It was very unique. And then they walked Prabhupada around outside. They have an outdoor altar with a very high structure with a chair at the top, an empty chair, and then all these kind of carvings of beings. They bring offerings, and they invite Lord Brahma, whoever they want to worship, to sit there. But Srila Prabhupada said they should have Radha and Krishna up there.
Is it possible for only one person to be initiated? Then Amoghadass said, Krishna consciousness believes in quality than in quantity. And I have spoken to Srila Prabhupada and said that there is only one sincere devotee that I see worth getting an initiation from you, and he has agreed. So I myself, I had gone inside the room and he had chanted on the beads, and after chanting I had asked him the question, Srila Prabhupada, what can I do? What is my duty after this? Do I have to leave my home and come and stay at the temple? And he said, no, it's not necessary. Krishna consciousness means you have to change your consciousness. It does not matter where you stay. You just have to chant and remember Krishna all the time. That is Krishna consciousness. And I said, what is my duty? He said, if you speak Sindhi, then preach to the Indian ladies. Read my books, chant, and be happy.